Hi, my name is Reuben. In this series of videos, I walk you through the sample Pool Doctors application that I developed for the introduction of Genero Mobile. In this video, I introduce you to the project and the project workspace, in particular the file pool_doctors.4pw. Okay, so when you open the project workspace, you'll see it split into two areas, the packages and the project or the sources. The packages is what we use for when we build the application and we want to deploy it onto the device. So here we can see we've got individual packaging areas to develop or to build a package for Android and iOS devices and the ARM and x86 chips. And in that area, we've got various properties where we can come along and figure the ID of the application, the name, the version, and the images. So that's all for when you've finished the application and you want to put it on the device. What we're really interested in is these sources. So in the sources area, if we work our way through here, in our config, first file we'll see is the FGL profile. What this is a list of runtime configurations. So at runtime or prior to runtime, we can come in here, change these values, and run the application. And we don't have to compile or rebuild the application. So kind of handy for development, test, training scenarios. You can come along in here and change the database. So this particular entry is telling me that I'm using the SQLite database as our default database, and that we can find the actual database file for the pool_doctors database that we referenced in the code is this file here. So we could come along and change this value here and point to another database, and we wouldn't have to recompile our code. Next entry here is the database schema. I'll just zoom that in so we can see that a bit better. Zoom out. So that schema file is the definition of our database. So we've got our job header table, customer table, job detail. Much better on a bigger monitor, but it's the definition or the schema of the tables. And from this file, we can create the database, or this file is used for the actual compilation, and we can compile our application against that database. Next in the sources, I've got my three different libraries. So application libraries, here's just some 4GL source that's repeated, and it's going to be, I've called it application because it's repeated code likely for this application. libsystem contains two 4GLs, which I'll talk about in different videos, but these 4GLs I intend to reuse in other applications. So that's why I've called them lib_system. I intend to reuse these in other applications that I write. And libwebcomponent is where I've put all the web component files that I've been using for this application. So this different colored node, that's the application node, and I've called my application Pool Doctors. And how I've organized it, I've split it into lots of folders. These folders correspond briefly to the way to the navigation of the application. So we're starting off with the main, going into the splash screen, and it also basically corresponds to the various videos I'll be producing. So you'll probably find a one-to-one correspondence between the videos I produce and these folders here. Release folder, I've just put some text files, so the obligatory README file. So have a read in here, and basically the key thing I want you to see there is the design brief. So this design brief was an application that's going to be used by an employee at a remote site. Use small device to record the performance of service and or delivery of goods. The application should be generic and applicable to, say, a technician recording the work performed, or a courier driver, proof of delivery, and use as many device features as possible. So things like the camera, barcode reader, GPS are all used by the application. And why have we called it Pool Doctors? Well, that's just the scenario that we dreamed up that met the above criteria. Hopefully after running the app, you can visualize by subbing in different data for the customer and product tables. This app could equally have been called other things like Fridge Doctor, TV Doctor, Car Doctor. When we're running the app, the basic business process of the application is that a customer makes contact with head office and records the work done. The job's assigned to the technician. The technician uses a sync process to get jobs allocated to them. They use the device to make contact with the customer and navigate to the site, and then use the device to record the work done, labour involved, photos, record notes, and do their timesheet before finally syncing it back up. So that's all explained in the README file here. We've also got in here a test plan, which is just a very quick test plan that I use for when I'm running the application, making sure that everything still works. Finally, at the bottom of the project workspace, we've got our user interface resources files. So they're very similar to the config FGL profile at the top, and that they're things that you can change at runtime without having to recompile the source. So action defaults, style sheets, and toolbars. And they're all simple little XML files that I'll explain in separate videos. Okay, so that's the project workspace that we can run through there. Now you note that pool_doctors is in bold. That means it's the default application. So when I run it, I can come along and run my application, or that'll recompile and run my application, and just make sure I've got the simulator displayed on the screen. And here you can see the application ready to go. So once you've downloaded the files, open the 4PW. Hopefully it's at a point ready where, if you've got your configuration set up correctly to run to an iOS simulator or to an Android emulator, then you can run it and run the application. Okay, so that's all I'm going to cover in this introduction video. The rest of these walkthrough videos, I'm going to start looking at the code in particular.